I didn't make out too well that night. I wound up somewhere partying or something.
Country music isn't just about guitars on porches and emotional songs. Behind the scenes, there's a long history filled with fights, scandals, and big tempers. Some of the same strong personalities that created amazing music also caused big problems. Whether they drank too much or didn't follow the rules of the music business, these artists didn't always behave. Come along as we reveal 21 country stars known for acting like jerks. At the top of our list, we have Johnny Paycheck.
You left me alone.
Johnny Paycheck had a voice that could shake a room in a temper that often got him in trouble. Back in the 50s, before he was famous, Johnny was in the Navy, but things went south fast. He got into a fight with a naval officer, was court-martialed, and ended up in jail for 2 years. He was also arrested in Wyoming for being involved with a 12-year-old girl. It was a serious charge. Johnny didn't fight it in court, pleaded no contest, and paid a fine. Even though he avoided jail that time, the damage to his name was done. Then came the bar incident. Johnny got into an argument with another man and pulled a gun. He shot the man in the head. Luckily, the victim survived. Johnny claimed it was self-defense, but the court didn't buy it. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison, though he only served 22 months before getting a pardon. Despite the music, the fame, and the fans, Johnny Paycheck's life was a mess of bad choices and worse consequences. He wasn't just singing outlaw country, he was living it, too. Followed by Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee Lewis, known as The Killer, was one of the wildest and most famous early rock and roll stars. He helped shape the sound of rock and rockabilly music in the 1950s. His song, Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On, made him a superstar, and hits like Great Balls of Fire and Breathless followed. But while his music was loud and exciting, so was his personal life, and not always in a good way. His career took a major hit when people found out he had married his 13-year-old cousin, Myra. Even worse, he was still married to another woman at the time. Fans were shocked, his tour was canceled, and his fame quickly faded. Jerry Lee also had a reputation for dangerous behavior. He once accidentally shot a bass player, and another time, a member of his crew. There were also serious claims that he abused his fourth wife, and rumors surrounding the mysterious deaths of his fifth wife and another woman he knew. Nothing was ever proven, but the stories followed him. One of the most famous incidents happened when he drove drunk to Elvis Presley's home, Graceland. He crashed his car into the gate with a loaded gun on the dashboard and was arrested. On top of all this, Jerry Lee had health problems and battled addictions to alcohol and pills. His wild lifestyle caused him a lot of pain, but it also kept his name in the spotlight. Even though he made great music, Jerry Lee Lewis's out-of-control behavior made many people see him as more of a troublemaker than a hero. Coming next is Hank Williams.
Financially, a tune called Cold.
Hank Williams Sr. was an American singer, songwriter, and musician. He helped shape country music and is still remembered as one of its most important figures. He wrote many famous songs, and 55 of them became big hits. Even after he died, 5 more songs were released, and 12 of his songs reached #1 on the country music charts. Hank's music was full of feeling. Songs like I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry touched people's hearts. But behind his strong voice and famous songs was a man who struggled. He drank too much and had personal problems. Sometimes he wouldn't show up for his shows, or he would come late. When he was doing well, he amazed the crowd, but other times, he couldn't even sing properly because of the drinking. People loved his music, but it was hard for them to understand how someone so talented could live such a troubled life. Hank Williams Sr. gave the world beautiful songs, but he also lived with a lot of pain. Following that, we have George Jones. George Jones was a country music icon, but his life was far from perfect. His no-show Jones reputation came from his constant habit of missing shows. Fans would buy tickets, expecting to see the man they loved, only to find out he wasn't showing up. Whether it was because he was too drunk, too high, or just didn't feel like it, George didn't seem to care much about his fans or his commitment to his career, but it didn't stop there. At the 1999 Country Music Association Awards, George caused another stir. He was asked to perform his hit song, Choices, but instead of just going along with the request, he threw a tantrum. The CMA wanted him to shorten the song, but George wasn't having it. Rather than doing what he was asked, he outright refused. His colleague Alan Jackson stepped in and sang the full version of the song. George wasn't exactly known for humility. Despite his problems, he didn't always take responsibility for his actions. It was clear that George thought he was untouchable, and he didn't mind burning bridges along the way. Even though George Jones became a country music legend, his behavior left a sour taste for many. His talents were undeniable, but his attitude? Not so much. The next on our list is Lefty Friselle. Lefty Friselle was a country singer with a smooth voice and a big influence on the music world. Many singers looked up to him and copied his singing style. But behind his music, there was a dark and troubling part of his story. When Lefty was in his late teens, he was arrested and convicted of statutory mistreatment. During that time, he wasn't focused on right or wrong. He spent his time writing songs instead of showing regret. One of those songs, I Love You 1,000 Ways, became one of his first hits. After getting out, his music career didn't take off right away. Because of the scandal, he had to step away from music and work in the oil fields. Still, when he returned, his music gained popularity again. Even though many people admired his style and sound, some couldn't forget what he had done. The music industry often looked the other way, but the truth stayed with his name. Lefty may have been a gifted artist, but he also hurt people and didn't seem to care much about it. Up next is David Allen Coe.
Just a little bit of Waylon sure goes a long way.
David Allen Coe didn't have a simple or easy beginning. As a teenager and young man, he spent many years in reform schools and prisons. Life was rough, but after he got out, he turned to music as a way to express himself and start fresh. He began by playing guitar and singing on the streets of Nashville, hoping someone would stop and listen. At first, Coe played mostly blues, pouring his raw emotions into every note. But over time, he shifted to country music and found his true voice. In the 1970s, he became a major figure in the outlaw country movement. He stood out with his long hair, tough attitude, and songs that didn't hold back. Some of his most popular hits include You Never Even Called Me By My Name, Long-Haired Redneck, The Ride, Mona Lisa Lost Her Smile, and She Used to Love Me a Lot. Coe's rebellious spirit earned him a strong fan base. People loved that he was different and real, but his wild image and outspoken ways also made it hard for him to be fully accepted by the country music industry. He didn't always fit the clean-cut mold they preferred. Following that, we have Porter Wagner. Porter Wagner was known for his flashy nudie and Manuel suits with rhinestones sparkling all over them and his signature blonde pompadour. He was a country music star with a big personality and an even bigger wardrobe. But behind the glitz, there was some serious drama. The biggest controversy in Porter's life came from his split with Dolly Parton. For years, Dolly was a regular guest and duet partner on his TV show. They were a hit, and many thought they were a perfect match. But as Dolly's career took off, she wanted to go solo. This led to tension between the two, and when Dolly left, things got messy. Porter wasn't happy about Dolly's decision to leave, and it led to a legal battle. Their relationship became strained, and they didn't speak for a long time. Though Dolly later said she was grateful for Porter's guidance, the public drama hung over both their careers. Despite the tension, Porter continued to be a major figure in country music, but his relationship with Dolly was always a shadow in his story. His flashy style and catchy tunes were unforgettable, but so was the drama that came with them. Right when you thought the bar couldn't get any lower, here comes Merl Haggard. Merl Haggard was a big name in country music, but not everyone loved what he had to say. His song, Okie from Muskogee, was a hit, but it also made a lot of people mad. Some thought it was just a fun tune about small-town life and being proud of old-fashioned values. Others thought it was a cheap shot at people who were fighting for change during the 1960s. To many, it sounded like Merl was making fun of anyone who didn't think or live like him. Critics called it narrow-minded and out of touch. Even some fans of country music didn't like the message. What made it worse was that Merl sent mixed signals. Sometimes he stood by the song, other times he said he didn't mean everything in it. He even admitted later that he kind of wished he hadn't written it, but only after it made him rich and famous. That wasn't the only time Merl stirred up trouble. He had a tough past and even spent time in prison when he was younger. Later on, Governor Ronald Reagan gave him a full pardon. You could say he went from an inmate to a country music star. Still, People kept criticizing him for his strong political views and the mistakes he made earlier in life. The next is Tammy Wynette. Tammy Wynette was called the First Lady of Country Music, but behind the title was someone who didn't always live up to the kind image her songs painted. Known for "Stand By Your Man," she sang about loyalty and standing strong beside your husband. But in real life, Tammy went through 5 marriages and many public fights, including a messy one with George Jones. Her most famous song became a lightning rod for criticism. Feminists called it a step backward for women, saying it told them to stay in bad relationships. Tammy brushed off the backlash, claiming it was just a simple love song. But to many, it seemed like she wanted to play both sides, profiting off a controversial message while avoiding the responsibility for it. She didn't appreciate being called out either. When Hillary Clinton commented comparing herself to "Stand By Your Man," Tammy got angry and publicly demanded an apology. It was clear she didn't like being questioned or challenged. Tammy also kept tight control over her image. She wanted to be seen as strong and tragic, but stories about her failed relationships and later legal fights over her estate painted a messier picture. Coming up next is Roger Miller. Roger Miller was a one-of-a-kind country music star. He became famous in the 1960s for his witty, playful songs like "King of the Road," "Dang Me," and "England Swings." His music had a fun, honky-tonk sound and clever lyrics that made people laugh and feel good. Fans loved his sense of humor and the way he made even simple things seem entertaining through his songs. But while Roger made the world smile, things were different behind the scenes. People who worked closely with him said he could be difficult. He was very sure of his own talent and didn't always welcome ideas from others. If someone made a suggestion he didn't like, he might roll his eyes or leave the conversation. He often thought his comedic style was better than anything anyone else had to offer. Many musicians and writers respected Roger's creative genius, but some also felt hurt by the way he treated them. They admired his quick wit and songwriting skills, but they also noticed that he could be dismissive and proud. His attitude made it hard for some people to enjoy working with him, even if they loved his music. Country music had seen its fair share of rebels by now, but these artists kicked the chaos into overdrive. With shocking lyrics and fiery attitudes, they didn't care who they offended. Fans, friends, or fellow stars, it just didn't matter. As long as their outlaw image stayed intact, the fallout was just part of the show. Whether they craved attention or simply couldn't help themselves, one thing was guaranteed. The drama didn't end when the music did. Just when you thought you'd seen peak jerk behavior, make way for Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was one of the most famous country singers ever, but he wasn't always easy to like. He had a deep voice and wore all black, which made people call him the Man in Black. His songs talked about sadness, struggles, and trying to be a better man. Even though he often sang about trying to be a better person, Johnny's actions off stage told a different story. He got into trouble a lot. He had a big problem with pills. He took too many, got arrested several times, and once even got caught picking flowers while high, which landed him in jail. That crazy moment became a song called "Starkville City Jail." Johnny liked to stand up for people like Native Americans, and he hated the Vietnam War. But not everyone liked that. Some hate groups, like the Ku Klux Klan, sent him threats and hate mail. Even his manager had to meet with Klan leaders to calm things down. Johnny Cash made powerful music, but he also made a lot of mistakes. He fought with the law, argued with society, and hurt people he loved. Some people saw him as a hero. Others thought he acted like a jerk. Maybe he was a bit of both. Up next is Wayan Jennings. Wayan Jennings was a famous country singer known for doing things his own way. He was part of the outlaw country movement and had a deep, strong voice that fans loved. In the 1980s, he was invited to sing on "We Are the World," a big charity song to help people in Ethiopia who were suffering from hunger. Many famous musicians were at the recording session, including Stevie Wonder. At one point, Stevie suggested adding a line in Swahili, a language spoken in parts of Africa. Wayan didn't agree with this idea. He pointed out that Swahili wasn't the main language in Ethiopia, and he thought the song should be more accurate. Because of this disagreement, Wayan quietly left the session. The song went on without him and didn't include the Swahili line, but Wayan's decision to walk out became part of the story behind "We Are the World." Years later, this moment was talked about in the Netflix documentary The Greatest Night in Pop. Much later, country singer Luke Bryan made comments about Waylon that some fans thought were rude. This caused a lot of upset online, and Luke even received threats from angry fans. Even with that controversy, Waylon's legacy stayed strong. After beating substance addiction in 1984, he kept making music and touring. Coming next is Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson is a country music legend, but not everyone sees him as a hero. Behind the scenes, some say Willie could be selfish and tough to work with. He walked out on deals, ignored advice, and treated bandmates like they were replaceable. His personal life? Just as messy. He married multiple times and even kept one marriage a secret from his first wife. He had kids with different women and wasn't always there to raise them. Willie also ran into big trouble with the Internal Revenue Services. He racked up millions in unpaid taxes and tried to hide his money. When the government came knocking, they took most of his stuff. Fans helped bail him out, but many felt he brought it on himself. And then there's the weed. Willie smoked a lot of it and made sure everyone knew. Some loved his chill vibe, but others said he didn't take things seriously. His loud political views didn't help either. Willie backed liberal causes and Democratic politicians. That rubbed some fans the wrong way. They just wanted him to sing, not preach. He was a legend, no doubt. But for some, Willie Nelson was also kind of a jerk. Following that, we have Loretta Lynn.
When I was born.
Loretta Lynn built her legacy talking about taboo topics and singing about strong women, tough love, and real-life struggles. But behind the curtain, she didn't always act like the humble country girl she claimed to be. Loretta had a sharp tongue and a stubborn streak that made working with her feel more like walking on eggshells. She demanded attention, expected loyalty, and didn't handle being challenged. If someone had a different idea, whether it was a bandmate, manager, or fellow artist, she'd shut it down fast, sometimes with a public scolding or a backhanded insult. She didn't like to share the spotlight either. When other women started gaining popularity in country music, Loretta often acted cold or dismissive. Some insiders said she saw every rising star as a threat, not a peer. To her, there was only room for one queen. And while she sang about standing by her man, people who knew her said she used personal drama as fuel for fame. Whether it was the fights with her husband or the conflicts with others, they all became part of her act. Loretta Lynn was a legend, no doubt, but some say she ruled her world with an iron fist in rhinestone gloves. The next on our list is Fon Young. Fon Young was a country music star with a golden voice, but behind the scenes, he was known for his short temper. He had a quick fuse and didn't think twice before lashing out. During a concert in West Virginia, a woman in the audience reportedly spat at him. Instead of keeping cool or letting security handle it, Fon stormed off the stage and spanked her in front of the crowd. He got arrested for assault. It was just one of many times his anger got the better of him. At home, things weren't much calmer. One day, Fon got so worked up during an argument that he fired a gun into the ceiling while his family was there. It was reckless and dangerous, and the law got involved again. But instead of showing regret, Fon often acted like he was the victim. His short temper pushed people away. Friends, fans, even the country music world began to keep their distance. He started drinking more, grew bitter, and slipped into depression. He blamed others for his fading career, never really owning up to how his behavior might have played a part. In 1996, feeling abandoned and unwell, Fon ended his own life. He left a note blaming the music industry and his health. But those who knew him best also saw how his fiery temper had burned too many bridges. Next is Charlie Rich. Charlie Rich was once a big name in country music, but he became famous for the wrong reasons at the 1975 CMA Awards. Instead of celebrating the winner of the Entertainer of the Year award, John Denver, Rich did something shocking. While holding the envelope with Denver's name, he lit it on fire right in front of the audience. It was a bizarre move that left everyone confused. Some believed he was drunk, while others thought he was angry about the direction country music was going, especially with artists like John Denver bringing a softer, pop-influenced sound to the genre. Whatever the reason, Rich's actions were rude and disrespectful to Denver and to the award ceremony. The backlash was swift. Fans and critics were disgusted by his outburst, and it hurt his career. Rich's popularity took a major hit after that incident. His defiant act came off as childish and petty, especially for someone who had been so respected in country music before. Instead of being remembered for his music, Charlie Rich ended up as the man who burned the award envelope, and with it, much of his reputation. Following that, we have Marty Robbins. Marty Robbins was a big star with a big smile. On stage, he charmed fans with his flashy outfits, smooth voice, and hit songs that crossed from country to pop. People loved his energy and showmanship. But behind the scenes, Marty wasn't always so easy to work with. He had a serious competitive streak. Marty didn't like sharing the spotlight. At group shows or special events, some singers said he always tried to get the longest set or the best time slot. If he wasn't the main act, he wasn't happy. He'd argue with show organizers, demand changes to the lineup, and sometimes even fight with other performers backstage. Some artists said Marty could be hot-headed and dramatic, especially if he felt someone else was getting more attention. While his fans saw a smiling cowboy, others behind the curtain saw a man who always had to be first, no matter what. To his supporters, Marty was just a hard worker who knew his worth. But to critics, he was difficult, demanding, and full of pride. Either way, one thing's for sure, Marty Robbins wasn't about to play second fiddle to anyone. Up next is Conway Twitty. Conway Twitty was a big name in country music, but not everyone loved him, especially behind the scenes. In the 1950s, he was part of the rockabilly scene, known for his smooth voice and catchy tunes. But as his career grew, he switched mostly to country music, becoming even more popular. He and Loretta Lynn became famous for their duets, winning a bunch of Country Music Association awards together. They looked like the perfect duo, but offstage, Conway wasn't always so charming. Conway had been married 4 times, but not because he was a great husband. He was married to 3 different women, and each time his relationships ended badly. He was known for being a bit selfish, caring more about his music and fame than his personal life. He had a habit of getting bored quickly and moving on to the next woman, often leaving a trail of hurt feelings. Even though he was talented, people didn't always see Conway as a nice guy. He liked to act like a star, and sometimes he treated others like they didn't matter. His reputation for being difficult and selfish followed him through his career, despite winning some big awards, and was inducted into the Country Music and Rockabilly Halls of Fame. Coming next is Buck Owens. Buck Owens was a big name in country music, known for his catchy songs and his Bakersfield sound. But behind the music, his career was full of controversy and drama that followed him for years. One of the biggest rumors was about a feud with fellow country legend Merl Haggard. Some people said the two didn't get along because Merl married Buck's ex-wife, Bonnie Owens. Others believed Buck was jealous of Merl's musical success, while Merl envied Buck's smart business moves. Merl later said there was no real fight, just 2 men with different paths. Another odd moment came when a religious fundamentalist from St. Louis claimed Buck's version of Bridge Over Troubled Water was secretly about heroin. It wasn't, of course, but the comments stirred up trouble. Even fans got in on the criticism. One listener from New York complained that Buck used too many drums in his music. At the time, that wasn't typical for country songs, and some fans didn't like the change. And then there was the rumor that Buck was banned from country radio. No one really knows if it's true, but it added more mystery to his story. The second to least on our list is Tom T. Hall. Tom T. Hall was known for writing songs that told stories about everyday people. He smiled in interviews, acted friendly, and called himself the storyteller. But behind the scenes, some people didn't think he was so kind. He didn't like to share credit. If someone gave him an idea for a song, he'd either ignore it or use it without saying thank you. He liked working alone and made it clear he didn't need help from others. Many young songwriters looked up to him, but he rarely offered advice or support. Instead, he acted like no one else could write songs the way he did. When Bob Dylan once joked that Tom's song I Love was overcooked, Hall didn't laugh it off. He got angry and defensive, even though Dylan had praised other writers in the same speech. Some folks said Tom could be thin-skinned, with a quiet ego that made him hard to work with. His songs might have sounded warm and folksy, but those who dealt with him behind closed doors said he could be cold, proud, and quick to dismiss people who didn't meet his standards. Finally, we have Hank Williams Jr. Hank Williams Jr. grew up in the shadow of his famous father, country legend Hank Williams. He inherited his dad's musical talent, but also seemed to inherit a flair for stirring up trouble. Over the years, Hank Jr. made headlines not just for his songs, but for the things he said. One of his most talked about songs was "If the South Would Have Won." In it, he imagined a world where the South won the Civil War. Many people felt the song was too supportive of old Southern ideas, and it made a lot of listeners uncomfortable. Later, he really upset people when he made a comment comparing President Barack Obama to Adolf Hitler. This caused a huge backlash. ESPN decided to pull his long-running theme song from Monday Night Football, a move that shocked many fans who had watched him kick off games for years. Hank Jr. never seemed to care much about keeping quiet. He spoke his mind, even if it cost him fans or deals. Like his father, he lived life loudly, but while his dad's troubles were mostly personal, Hank Jr.'s were often public and political. From Hank Williams Sr.'s struggles to Willie Nelson's stubbornness, these country stars lived the chaos they sang about. Behind the music were egos, scandals, and power struggles. Controversies like David Allen Coe's lyrics and Tammy Wynette's manipulations show how turmoil fueled creativity and sometimes tarnished their legacies. But which of these jerk behaviors got to you the most? Let us know in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.